The bus ride to Camp Blackwater was long and bumpy. My name is Chloe. It was my first summer as a counselor. The woods grew thicker and darker the closer we got. Tall pine trees blocked out the sun. Their long shadows looked like bony fingers reaching for our bus. The camp sign was old and faded. The letters CAMPBLACKWATER were peeling. One of the posts was crooked. It looked like the sign was about to fall over. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I told myself it was just nerves, but something felt off. As I stepped off the bus, the air felt heavy. It was thick with the smell of pine needles and damp earth. The main lodge was a huge log cabin, but its windows looked like dark, empty eyes watching us. The lake, which was supposed to be sparkling, was still and dark. Its surface was like black glass. The other counselors seemed excited, but I couldn't shake the strange feeling. It felt like the woods were holding their breath, like they were waiting for something to happen. I clutched my backpack tightly. It was just a summer camp, right? What could possibly be scary about a summer camp? Later that evening, we all sat around a crackling campfire. The flames danced, casting weird shadows on our faces. The head counselor, a man named Mr. Harrison, gave us a welcome speech. He talked about teamwork and making sure the campers had fun. He had a big, friendly smile, but when his eyes swept over the group, they seemed sad. He warned us to stick to the main paths. The woods can be tricky, he said. It's easy to get lost. His voice was low and serious. It made the hairs on my arms stand up. After the meeting, I walked back to my cabin with another new counselor named Maya. The moon was a pale sliver in the sky. The chirping of crickets sounded unusually loud in the deep silence. Every snap of a twig made me jump. I kept looking over my shoulder into the deep, dark woods. It felt like something was watching me from between the trees. I tried to laugh it off, but the feeling wouldn't go away. This was Camp Blackwater. And I was starting to think it had a secret, a very dark secret. The next day, the rumors started. I was helping set up for the archery lesson when I overheard two older counselors talking. They spoke in hushed voices. They kept mentioning a year 2001. I tried to act busy, but I was listening to every word. They said something terrible happened here, something the camp directors didn't like to talk about. A counselor, they said, just vanished. One minute he was leading a nature hike, and the next he was gone. They never found him. Not a trace, not a footprint, nothing. Later, during our lunch break, I asked Maya about it. She rolled her eyes. "Oh, you mean the ghost story?" she said. But another counselor, Brody, leaned in close. His eyes were wide. "It's not a ghost story," he whispered. "It's real. It happened in 2001. A counselor named Alex disappeared near the old abandoned cabin deep in the woods. They say he went crazy out there. But that's not the worst part." He paused for dramatic effect, making sure we were all listening. The lunchroom suddenly felt a lot colder. Brody continued his story. He said there was a camper with Alex on that hike, a little boy. When the search party found the boy the next morning, he was sitting alone by the lake. He was just staring at the water. He wouldn't speak. He couldn't tell them what happened to Alex. The doctors said he was in shock. The official report said Alex must have gotten lost and fallen into a hidden ravine. But the camp staff who were there back then knew better. They said the boy wasn't just scared. He was terrified of something he saw in the woods. The story had different versions, of course. Some said Alex ran away. Some said he was taken by a wild animal. But the creepiest rumor was the one Brody seemed to believe. He said the boy finally spoke one word to his parents before they took him away from camp forever. He whispered the name Blackwood. No one knew what it meant. Was it a person, a place, or something else? Something that lived in the dark parts of the forest? The official story seemed simple, but the details didn't add up. It was a puzzle with a missing piece. The story of 2001 split the counselors into two groups. There were the logical ones, like Maya, and there were the dramatic ones, like Brody. Maya thought it was all a big exaggeration. "It was over 20 years ago," she said, shaking her head. "People love to make things sound scarier than they are. A guy got lost in the woods. It's sad, but it's not a monster movie. There's a rational explanation for everything." She tried to find the old newspaper articles online. She wanted facts, not feelings. She refused to be scared by what she called campfire tales. Brody was the complete opposite. He loved the fear. He told the story to anyone who would listen, adding new creepy details each time. They say on quiet nights you can still hear Alex whistling for help near the abandoned cabin," he'd say with a spooky grin. He claimed he saw strange lights in the woods and heard footsteps outside his cabin at night. The younger counselors hung on his every word. They would gasp and shiver. For Brody, the mystery wasn't something to solve. It was entertainment, a real-life horror story to make the summer more exciting. The campers reacted differently too. Some of the older kids thought it was cool. They dared each other to sneak out and look for the abandoned cabin. They wanted an adventure. But the younger ones were terrified. They started having nightmares. They were afraid to walk to the bathrooms by themselves after dark. One little boy swore he saw a tall, shadowy figure standing by the edge of the lake, just like the boy from 2001. Was he just repeating the story he heard? Or did he really see something? It was impossible to tell. I was stuck in the middle. Part of me was like Maya. I wanted to believe the logical explanation. It was easier. It was safer. But another part of me couldn't ignore the creepy feeling that settled over the camp when the sun went down. I couldn't ignore the sad look in Mr. Harrison's eyes, or the hushed whispers from the oldest staff members. Brody's stories were probably exaggerated, but what if they weren't? What if there was a little bit of truth in them? The fear was contagious and I was starting to catch it. As the summer continued, the line between truth and legend became blurrier. Every strange noise in the night was the ghost of Alex. Every shadow was the mysterious Blackwood. The story took on a life of its own, fed by our fears and our imaginations. The official report said one thing, but the feeling at Camp Blackwater said another. The facts were cold and simple. A man went missing, a child was traumatized, but the feelings were powerful. They filled in the gaps with terrifying possibilities. The what-ifs were so much scarier than the what was. I realized that the full story of 2001 would never be known. The real truth was lost with Alex in the woods that day. It was locked away in the mind of the little boy who was too scared to speak. All we had left were the pieces, the official logical explanation that Maya clung to, and the scary emotional story that Brody loved to tell. Both were part of the camp's history now. One was the fact, the other was the feeling. And here, in the deep, dark woods, the feeling was much stronger. The fear was real, even if the monster wasn't. The campers who were scared of the dark were truly scared. The nervous feeling I got when I walked past the woods was a real feeling. It didn't matter if it was caused by a ghost or just a spooky story. Our minds were creating the horror. The legend of Camp Blackwater wasn't just about what happened in the past. It was about how we dealt with the unknown in the present. It showed how easily fear can turn a simple mystery into a terrifying tale. On the last night of camp, I stood by the edge of the still, black lake. The woods were silent. I didn't know what happened to Alex in 2001. Maybe nobody ever would. Was it a tragic accident? Or was it something more sinister? The truth remained hidden, just out of reach, like something lurking deep beneath the dark water. The mystery of Camp Blackwater was a perfect mix of fact and fear, and I knew its chilling legend would be told around the camp